When it comes to winning championships, sometimes you have to take a gamble. In the case of Bradley Hawley tonight, he's done his best to take all the risk out of the equation. Indeed, depending on how many drivers show up, he may be able to be crowned by the time the green flag falls. Las Vegas is often a place of celebration, but will it be for Hawley or Acosta tonight? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 10 of the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Cy Andra. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Las Vegas Motor Speedway is one of those that came out of the track boom of the 90s. To find out what differentiates it from the other mile-and-a-halfers, let's head to our track guide.
Welcome to Sin City and Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The sprawling motorsports complex located 20 minutes northeast of the Strip is home to some of the nicest racing facilities in the nation. Known as the Diamond in the Desert, the crown jewel of this facility is the 1.5-mile D-shaped oval constructed in 1996. In 2006, LVMS underwent massive changes, upping the banking in the corners from 12 to 20 degrees and installing progressive banking in the process. The result? One of the most competitive stock car circuits on the iRacing service. Vegas races like a mini restrictor plate track now, with stock cars and trucks alike often spread 2 and 3 wide, several rows deep, several laps into a tire run. The D-shaped front stretch allows for side-by-side racing action to continue down onto the apron as well, and both corners provide equal opportunity to set up a run on the top side or dive down under an opponent on the bottom. Starts and restarts here are especially action-packed, truly one of the most diverse ovals on the iRacing service. In 2018, NASCAR added a second Cup Series date to this track, giving the facility a pair of triple-header weekends with Cup cars, Xfinity, and trucks all competing. Well, that's our look at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's time to roll the dice. Enjoy the show.
Well, Cy, this is going to be another track where we've got a mile and a half, and it's going to be pretty quick like we saw at Atlanta. But what are we going to expect with the trucks around this place?
A lot of close, a lot of fast racing. These trucks tend to stay together pretty well around here. I would say the biggest thing is to make sure to stay ahead of the big one. This isn't Daytona or Talladega, but with the way these trucks can bunch up here at Las Vegas, I think it's going to be a lot of prediction and sort of keeping your nose clean towards the end of the race, making a run for it. Especially with the limited tire sets we have, conserving those tires is going to be a big thing around Las Vegas here.
Especially once we get to the weather, it's looking like it might chew them up a bit here. But today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
The PRL NASCAR Truck Series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, let's take a look at that Drivers' Championship as it sits right now with the point situation and without the drop week this week counting. It is Bradley Hawley up at the top, and he's got 38 points. So The simple way to think about it is if he finishes 32nd or better, Holly will clinch the championship. We have 32 drivers here today, so he needs one more driver. Well, he doesn't need one more driver to show up, but if one does, that means that he'll have to finish last to lose the championship, and that is with bonus points, complete bonus points for Abner Acosta. So it's going to be extremely hard for Abner to take away. If anything, if you want more drama, look behind them. Bajin, Chatley, Walter, and that's not just it. You've got more drivers behind them that are extremely close. Knight is only one more point back in 6th position, and it's 6 points back to Jim Westerfield. So drivers could really swap around there from 3rd on down. Now, Cy, we do also have a teams championship. Why don't you run us down how that one sits?
So right now, we have Waterback Overdrive Racing at the top of the list with 736 points, and then 75 points back is Waterback Back Row Racing. They've clinched those top 2 spots, I would say, and then Waterback Next Level is in 3rd place, a little bit closer to Car Camrod and Riding Shotgun Rangers. I would say with the point situation right now, I would say Waterback have clinched the driver's title. I'd say whichever team wins, and I think it's going to be a close race between 4th, 5th, and 3rd. I would say. With Car Ramrod having a bit of a long shot at 3rd, but I would say they'd be fighting a lot, I think, with Riding Shotgun Rangers.
And no doubt about that. Now, for today's event, as we mentioned, it's the finale. And we have 85 laps. Of course, if we get too many cautions, it can be limited to an hour maximum. But they have no spare trucks around here. So if they damage it, they've just got to deal with what's happened and maybe come into the pits and get a few repairs, hoping that it can keep the speed up. It is a fixed setup in this series, so drivers don't have to fiddle with that at all. They just get in, practice, and try to go fast. But there is a 24 incident limit, so that is a strict limit. There is no drive-through penalty. They will be disqualified as soon as they hit 24. Definitely got to be on their game. We talked about the bonus points just so that people are up to speed. There are 5 available between pole, most laps led, leading lap, and fastest lap. And then if they manage to keep it clean out there, they will get bonus points for not causing a caution. You lose those bonus points if you cause a caution throughout the race. So as they work their way towards the warm-up here, it is quite toasty on the track surface side. We were talking about this a little bit before we came live to air. Not too surprising considering we're in the desert.
Absolutely, and especially with the way the series limits tire sets. You only get 3 tires plus the set you start on for this race. So you can't just come into the pits and change your tires every time there's a caution or every time you feel like it. You gotta weigh the cost of it, so to speak. The main thing is that the right front takes a beating around Las Vegas simply because of the way the track is laid out. High speed entries, and you kind of want to arc the car in, but at the same time you don't want to lose speed, so you're really leaning on that right front. Not a lot of room for error there. And if you take tires early, it'll put you towards the front, but then you'll be hurting towards the end if there's a late race caution.
All right, qualifying has now started. Drivers trying to pick up speed here as we watch Brandon Adams, who is out coming through 3 and 4, getting ready to head back onto the tri-oval and start his first flyer. They get 2 laps to try and set their best lap. We'll see if the speeds here make the second one any quicker. Adams now looking over his dash. Right in that middle line, it seems, that he likes through turns 1 and 2. Takes it out to the wall. Let's see what he likes through 3 and 4.
I think that they'd like to keep it low down to the white line here, shortest way around the track. But it seems like maybe the middle line might be a little bit faster because of the way the progressive banking works on this track. Banked a little bit more at the top. So maybe carrying that speed around the corner is better than just taking the shortest line around.
First one wasn't the quickest there for Brandon Adams. He's a few tenths down on our pole sitter, which is provisionally Patrick Cowgill, but we're still waiting for a lot of drivers to put their first quick one in. And it's just about half a tenth between Cowgill and Richter currently. We're watching Brandon Walter now come around to see what he can do, as well as Colton Lane in the number 60 as he comes across the line. It is going to be Waiting for a time to sit. Second for Colton Lane. My goodness, the 60 is flying today. He gets shuffled back down to third, but that red, white, and blue car is looking quite hot.
It's going to be interesting. I'm still waiting to see where Hawley comes out. I don't think he set a time just yet, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, Hawley's just exiting the pits. Oh wow, Brandon Walter is 14 thousandths quicker than Sink. And he is now only 3 thousandths slower than Richard Regan, who took it away. And then Colton Lane now moves back into second on his second lap. Things changing around quite quickly up at the top of the field.
Looks like those second laps might be a little bit faster just because they can build the momentum, kind of like at Daytona and Talladega. While Las Vegas isn't classified as a super speedway, it's definitely, like, the momentum you can build up definitely affects the way you can take your second lap. And I see a lot of people practicing their pit entries as well. We see this quite a lot. People can miss their pit entry here quite easily because it's a very sharp transition from the banking onto pit road. So getting that wrong can easily ruin the night with an unexpected turn.
Yeah, if we see some green flag stops, that could be interesting for sure. Abner Acosta's first lap put him well down, so I think you're right about the second lap being quicker. Looks to be correct. His second one is 0.6 quicker, a 31.294, and that puts him on the front row next to Regan Jr.
Absolutely. It looks like, I think we're still waiting on a couple people here to set times. Maybe they're waiting for the track to cool off a little bit once qualifying started, who knows, but I think, or especially with the way the shadows are looking on the outside of turn 2, looks like Bradley Hawley started his laps. Here we go.
Yeah, he's on his second flyer right now, so this is going to be the important one. Where is it going to place him? He crosses the line. It is a 31.278. That's going to be right up there. In fact, it is on pole by 2 1/1000ths over Richard Regan Jr. It's looking like a bonus point for the 184 there.
Well, it's not like he needs it, though.
Exactly. Well, and you know, that just makes things all the harder. And especially if we don't get one more car out here before this qualifying session is over, that pretty much means the championship is indeed over as soon as we take to the grid. Danny Cervantes on his second lap. Whoa! Cervantes is going to deny him. Danny up to the top spot.
Well, it does look like those second laps are faster. It looks like the later you wait in qualifying to set a time, the faster you go. Who else are we waiting on still? I think we still have Adam Young, Nicholas Hunter, Stacy Hunter, William Lee. I think they're all waiting on laps here. I don't see them on track just yet.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody is out. And with the clock ticking down, that means our qualifying session is effectively over. So we'll be going through the grid here momentarily. And I can report once that ticks over how many cars are signed up. It is 33. So there is a possibility, there is a scenario in which the championship can be lost still. But on the top of the grid, it is going to be Danny Cervantes with Bradley Hawley starting next to him. Richard Regan Jr. will be starting in third and Abner Acosta in P4. Then it is Colton Lane starting fifth with Adam Zemke in the 6th position. Brandon Walter starts in 7th, followed by Thomas Sink in 8th. Inside of the 5th row is 9th, and then rounding out the top 10 is Dominic Vagine. What's the next 10 look like, Cy?
Well, on the inside of row 6, we have Patrick Cowgill, and then right next to him we have Jim Westerfield. In 13th, lucky 13, we have Doyle Lawrence, and then on the outside of him is Mark Kalin. Then we have Doug Evans, Jose Medina, Brandon T. Adams, Adam Shohan, Brendan Chatley, and Shelby Huff rounds up your top 20.
21st goes to Mike Richter with Austin Hunter in 22nd. Nick Schwartz will be P23 and Ryan Traver 24th. The last one to put a time in is Kulhanek in 25th. From there on down, gridded by their iRating, it's Fowler, Marinero, Young, Farmer, LaBaff, Hunter, Nick Hunter and Stacy Hunter right next to one another, and then William Lee 33rd. As soon as we have a DNF and a driver exits the session, that will be the championship. It effectively goes to Bradley Hawley from there, because if he cannot be overtaken, he is done everything is done and nobody can mathematically beat him on the track. We wait for the pace truck to lead the way, which looks like he does just now. We'll get a single lap around here, and then we'll go racing for what is hopefully 85 laps. If you're Abner Acosta, what would you be doing here today? Is it go for broke, try to hit the front immediately, Si?
Absolutely. I think he needs to be controlling the field if he has any chance of sort of giving him a chance of even winning the championship. As slim as it may be, he has to be at the front controlling it. Otherwise, I don't think he has a shot to get those extra points for leading a lap, most laps led, and fastest lap.
So pressure is on, but from what we've talked to Acosta earlier in the season, he has admitted that he thinks it's unlikely he can beat Bradley Hawley. I'm sure every driver still holds that hope out that they can still claim it and tries for it all the way to the checkered flag. So we are on board with Hawley, watching from the helmet cam. I doubt there's any butterflies in his stomach right now. He's taken multiple championships in this series, so he knows how to do it. He's got the experience. It's just a question of whether or not he can keep the car safe here today and not fall victim to other people's trouble. As the pace truck now peels in, that's going to give control over to Cervantes, waiting for the green flag to wave. There it goes, and everybody is off, picking up speed down for round 10 of the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. It is not the greatest of starts for Hawley. Richard Regan Jr. already to his inside as they head down into turn 1. They're finally getting up to pace here, and Regan already, Si, is looking underneath Cervantes, and we got a caution.
I saw there was a big checkup on the inside line coming off the start. I wasn't sure if it was going to cause issues, but it looks like it's finally sort of registered out, I think, towards the back of the field, sort of that whiplash effect you get.
Yeah, that was Farmer in the 86 who unfortunately caused the caution. This is a bit of a strange one. Yeah, the checkup you mentioned, I think, is what kicked that off, and it went 4 wide for a brief moment. Yeah, it happened just... Yeah, if we go back, it happens before he hits the wall, but it's strange that he blew the engine there after he hit the wall. Yeah, he weaves up high to try and take avoiding action. I'm not sure who that is that he hits.
I think we've all been flustered, though, after an incident. I think we just found a money shift there. Found a fifth when he wasn't supposed to.
Exactly. So he unfortunately has ended his day prematurely, and, well, I can report that this has been a very early decision on the championship because William Farmer has already disconnected. That means that your new champion for 2021 Season 1 is going to be Bradley Hawley, even though Abner Acosta is ahead of him. From now on, it is all for ego on who can take the victory, and I guess for Acosta, whether or not he can at least finish ahead of that 184.
I don't think we're going to see any takers onto pit lane, Joe. What do you think?
That's probably a safe bet. I mean, as far as Vegas bets go, that one probably you're going to get away, but I don't think the odds will really get you much money back. Hunter appears to be the one that got the damage. Now, maybe we should have taken that bet because it looks like Traver and Kulhanek have stopped in. I'm guessing this is just a top-off fuel or something here.
Well, we'll have to see if they get on the jack or not, but I kind of doubt it because, well, it's lap 1. And, they might be gambling, hoping for a long green flag run, hoping they can go a lap longer and potentially make it to the end of one less stop if it goes green all the way. But that's another bet I don't really want to take. What about you?
Not really. I've always been a horrible gambler, to be frank, so I just don't risk my money. I'm not quite like Bill Zahn. As we see Nick trying to get back to the tail of the field, and he will be on the lead lap, thankfully, so he has not gone a lap down. They do have lucky dogs in this series, so he would be able to snatch that back as long as he doesn't become the second car a lap down. I think we're going to get the lights off on the pace truck here, so should at least be getting going on lap 5 for our restart. Not the greatest of ways to kick things offside, but I'm still hopeful.
I mean, Las Vegas tends to yield a lot of good racing, and while it is sort of quasi-pack racing, I would say, it's still not quite as close as they've been on Talladega to cause frequent cautions. Let me put it that way. But you know, with the caliber of the guys racing in this field, I doubt cautions breed cautions as much as they would in other series.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I want to say we've only missed the time marker once so far this season. I need to double check my stats on that, but otherwise they've made it to the checkered flag pretty much every race. And now doubled up. Cervantes going to restart on the lead. Regan Jr., though, last time started to look like he had pace coming off of turn 2 and had eyes on the lead. He's already demoted Bradley Hawley back to 4th on this restart. So you never know. Things switched up quite quickly. Of course, Acosta still in 3rd. He started from 4th, so he gained 1 spot as well from whatever plagued Hawley there at the start of the race. Coming off of turn 4, Cervantes once again being given control. The pace truck is going to leave them be. Cervantes waits. No, he doesn't wait this time. He goes immediately, and look at the dive down to the inside from Richard Regan Jr. He once on the apron, covers off the likes of Abner Acosta immediately, and plunging down into turn 1. It's single file for the top 4, but then you get some too wide.
Definitely don't want to be hung out around the outside here, especially with how flat you are on the first lap. I think Regan was a little bit sleepy on that restart, but I think, ooh, and now Acosta goes to the inside, and I think Acosta's about to take 2nd place away from him.
He gets it. So up into P2, Acosta certainly has got the bit between his teeth. But the slipstream is already reeling them in, and Regan gets very close behind, looking up to the high side. Acosta seems to like running a little bit of a higher line, then ducks bound low, looks for the over-under instead, and he might actually get up to the lead here very early in this race with only a couple laps of green flag running. Cervantes hands it over without much fight.
Like Acosta wants all of the points he can get. He just got the point for fastest lap, assuming he holds on to it, and now he's going to get the point for leading a lap. And now he's going to work on most laps today.
A little bit of a battle back there that you can see. That's Regan on the high side, just next to the likes of Bradley Hawley down the backstretch. They've also got Colton Lane and the red, white, and blue 60. I think the 184 didn't quite get the momentum off of turn 2 as he dropped back a little bit, but that shorter line bringing him back up alongside Richard Regan, and the fight will continue as they cross the line yet again.
Looks like the 2 wide racing is working here. You just need a little bit of a draft, but they are single filing out towards the front. And I wonder if this is them trying to log laps. I don't know if the aero wash is as strong on the trucks as it is the Cup cars, but I kind of doubt it. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah, and with the high temperatures, I think you're right. The drivers might just be thinking long term here in case we do get a long green flag run. We're riding on board with Hawley. Now, if we look behind him, got some nice fighting between Adam Zemke and Dominic Begin, along with the 23 of Brett Adams. In fact, very close fighting between them, nearly making contact through turn 1.
It's close racing. Oh, and there's maybe a little bit of contact out of 2. Looks like they're going to settle out okay. And like you said, I think they're just trying to take off laps here, maybe get the opportunistic position here.
You can see up in front of them, side by side for 2nd. That's Regan down below Cervantes. Danny might get demoted yet another position here. Oh, and he is going to come together.
Banging.
Oh, everybody holds it together, and thankfully they were at the end of the straight. That would have been a massive wreck with the speeds they were running. I think we've got enough time for a quick replay. Now, the spotter should have been in his ear telling him he had a car low, but for whatever reason, they just drifted into one another.
It looks like maybe he just tried to pinch Regan down a little bit because it didn't work.
No, actually, you know what? I put that a little bit more on Regan. It looked like he was coming up high, trying to widen that entry, and just wound up into him. So Cervantes, and Cervantes just got another shove. He is actually in the wall this time. Was that Begin that got him? I couldn't quite see, but whatever the case, Danny is just getting pushed around like the nerdy kid at school, unfortunately.
Well, this is what happens when you lose that momentum. I think he definitely bled a couple spots after he got doored by, or he doored Regan, like you said, and then I think people are just trying to get opportunistic early. It looks like he's a little bit of right side damage on that car after hitting the wall, but it doesn't look catastrophic.
He's down to 19th since then. He's still running. He's got plenty of time to try and get repairs on it. Hopefully it's not too damaged. I'd hate to see our pole sitter lose out. We're only 12 laps into this thing. Up at the front, it is still Acosta at the point, but Bradley Hawley and Richard Regan Jr. actually pushing one another right now. Bump drafting along the trioval. Hawley trying to give Regan that little bit of extra speed.
Here looks Hawley low, and maybe he's trying to get a run here. It looks like he is, but I don't know if he's going to be able to hold it with the draft on the outside.
Now, this will be a good opportunity to see what the high versus low line merits between two top drivers. Coming off the corner, just about dead even between them. Hard to find much advantage, but I think slightly better momentum for Regan as he comes down into one yet again. This time they're able to keep out from of one another. Go ahead, Sal.
They're still dead even. I mean, it looks like it's an even fight. I think the Progressive Bank is doing a good job here, kind of letting the outside lane run faster while the lower lane gets a further distance. It's a blast.
Yeah, it works as advertised. In the 60, who we ride on board with, getting very close to that rear bumper, almost giving him a little bit of nudge off the corner and diving way down to the apron. We've seen this multiple times, Si. It seems like Regan likes to really cut down as far as he can.
Well, I see a lot of the peak drivers do something similar when they're running here, so I think it's just a question of how stable is your car going into the corner. If it's stable, why not do it? And you see this in real life as well. It makes sense to me, but again, when these tires wear out, that transition can't get real quick.
They are on a fixed setup, so I guess it's a case of Regan feels a little bit more comfortable doing so, and everybody else doesn't necessarily feel a need to take that risk. This time he doesn't. He stays high ahead of Bradley Hawley. And single file racing amongst our top 6, top 7 plunging through 1 and 2 yet again. They got a little bit of a battle forming behind them. I see Walter and Adams along with Patrick Cowgill having a little bit of a tussle.
Yeah, it looks like we're kind of getting a breakaway back up here of the 7 you mentioned, and another pack of 5 right behind them. And just behind that, it looks like you have a little bit of a stragglers forming. I think it might be because they're just fighting too hard. I think they lost the draft, and I think, well, I don't know if if they keep this up, they're going to lose their shot at even getting close to the lead pack.
Yeah, this side-by-side racing does not bode well. And the 31 even is going to try and take advantage now. Cowgill to the high side and ride on board with him. He's going to dispose of Walter potentially. No, the blue number 99 is going to come back at him. The 31 tries to ride high, gets it right up to the wall on the exit of 4, and that is actually finally going to net him that 9th position.
It looks like exiting high and then jumping down low is the way to go around here. A lot of people do it. Just get that momentum going, and God, the inside can't really do much.
To note, see if anybody's paying attention here as we watch on board, and once again looking to the inside, this time on the 23 instead, as Patrick Cowgill hopes to bump himself up into 8th. Brett Adams can't chop down low coming off of 4. He's got that 31 down inside of him. They send it into 1 once again. Shorter line, but shallower banking. Still, it's gripping well. The 31 gets ahead. He can slide in front of the backstretch, and that's exactly what he does.
It makes you think how much he's burning off the right front tire doing that. I don't know how much longer that tire's going to take that. As far as I know, they're still flat out around here, more or less. But as the tire's burning, that could change, and I think that would change the line that these drivers take.
Things are getting feisty for second again. Colton Lane currently holds that spot, but he nearly had a tip from Bradley Hawley, and this was through the trioval. Thankfully, they didn't actually make contact, but they are not afraid to get close together.
But doing this, they're losing the leader. Abner is getting away. The gap is now up to 0.3 of a second. It's not what you want. The draft here is pretty strong. I think you get a draft all the way back to about a 0.5 second to a second. But letting the leader get away like that is not a way to get the win. Bradley doesn't care at this point, I don't think. But I think for bragging rights, he still wants that win to clinch the title.
Absolutely. But you have to consider the motivations of Acosta, too. He's yet to take a victory this season, despite being second in the points. So it makes me wonder if he's trying to at least seal this off with at least one W.
Battle again for third. So Thomas Sink and
Lane. Lane going to lose out, so he was in second and gets shuffled all the way down to fourth quite quickly as Thomas Sink now moves on to the podium. I think Dominic Pagine wants to get involved. How about this run? He's up from 10th on the grid to 5th, looking at a potential 4th. We're only 22 laps into this thing, so barely a quarter of the way in.
Like I said, it looks like cautions don't breed cautions in this league. They're all sort of quieting down a little bit, taking those laps off. Now, the next question is, are we going to have green flag pit stops?
Certainly throw things into disarray, especially considering the tires. As they come down the front stretch one more time, Pagine has managed to get inside of Colton Lane. We talked a little bit earlier about, I mentioned maybe drivers could be trying to preserve tires a little bit in terms of how they're running. Colton Lane zoomed up towards the front. Now it looks like he's going the opposite direction. Do you think maybe he burned his stuff up?
Potentially. I think he was counting on a quick caution right after the first one, so he spent a lot of his time, burning off the right front, running in low, driving off the corner hard. And I think, yeah, you're right. He was starting to go backwards. It's kind of like that give and take here of this track. You see a lot of people who are taking over, they're taking now. And I think we've seen Patrick Cowgill, and I think Brett Adams is also another one that I was keeping an eye on. He's coming through the field.
Brett Adams currently up in 9th position, which is where he started, interestingly. 23, though, still chugging along. I got curious because we kept talking about those lap times and the tires and their condition. We went from 31.5s, 31.4s early in the stint here to we are already down a second slower. So I do think maybe taking an early stop might be a viable strategy if anybody's willing to, well, roll the dice. It is Vegas.
And it looks like Abner is also running a lane up from the bottom now. He's not hugging the white line like they were at the start of the race. He's running about a lane up. Not quite through 3 and 4, but through 1 and 2 for certain. And it makes me think he's kind of preserving that right front, but it looks like Bradley Hawley is still chasing him down.
Yeah, let's watch it one more time here through 1 and 2. Let's see if he does it again as he's followed by Bradley Hawley. Yeah, you're right. Just kind of holding up. Hawley, in fact, going a little bit lower through the corner than him. Oh, and Colton Lane's not happy about something. And looks like he had some problems with Dominic Pagine. If we get a replay, a little bit of contact between the 66 and the 60. And that's sent to, well, wow, Lane does a great evasive maneuver to keep it out of the wall. There's the contact. Just barely avoids it. If we watch it from above, he did a fantastic job avoiding scraping the outside. Here we see it right here. Let's listen in. Just barely. That sends him down to 7th, Cy. So didn't cost him too much, but he certainly sounded a little bit irked.
Yeah, it's not usually someone pulls up in front of you from the inside and then sort of stops. I think he just may have gotten a little bit loose, but that may be our first indication of these trucks sort of fighting back a little bit from the abuse that they've been taking all race.
Kept talking about drivers who've been making good moves. Honestly, one of our hardest chargers is Brennan Chatley right now, the number 59. He's gone from 19th to 12th, and similarly ahead of him, Adam Shane has gone from 18th to 11th. Both of them up 7 spots from the start. Here we ride on board with Chatley now.
Looks like he's just a little bit of ways off that second pack there. I think if he's been taking care of his tires, he should be gaining ground now. Yeah, look, he's running that second lane, same as Abner. I think it's catching the cars in front of him, I believe. So I'm looking at his lap times now. I think he's running about a 10th a lap faster to the cars ahead of him on average. So that means he's going to catch him in a few laps here.
Yeah, marginal gains there on that last one as we look at the last lap at the bottom of our screen. But Shane is battling with Walter and Adams in front of him. So if they keep mucking about like that, that'll definitely allow him to really chop down on it. And indeed, there they go, too wide in front. The 23 pinching down on Walter, although now the 23 drifts up high and almost getting into the back of Walter. Shane has to take evasive action. I do indeed think these tires are leaving them.
It looks like their patience is leaving them too. These guys are getting awful racy for only being a little bit less than halfway through the race.
Yeah, it looks pretty spicy, but I'll have to check to see what the points are between this trio, because they could be fighting for positions in the championship. Let's not forget the ones that we mentioned earlier. Brennan Chatley, Walter, and Knight are your 4 that are all battling for 3rd in the championship. Looking at our leaders yet again. Wow, big gap now because it was, I think, Brennan involved in that incident with Lane. That must have checked him up. So Acosta, Hawley, and Sink have nearly a second back to the Canadian in the 66.
That breakaway, and I don't think they're going to have much tire left to come and catch them. I don't know if we're going to have any early takers on pit road, but I think this is about the time where they're going to get that crossover to about halfway. 85 laps, so 41, 42. So they've got about 10 laps. So if anybody wants to try the undercut, like you said, they're losing a second a lap on average, maybe more now since we've checked. So if anybody wants to pit early, they'll be gaining that time back pretty soon, I'd say.
So I guess put yourself on the crew chief box, though. So you've got that second advantage, but if they do pit, they're surely going to lose a lap, and if the tires are going, that would make a caution more likely. So I mean, how do you weigh that out?
I think the right move for now is just kind of just sit and wait for a little bit. Like you said, if they get a caution, they're kind of screwed because they'll have lost a lap, and unless they're the lucky dog and everybody else pits, they'll be hung out to dry. And with the limited sets they have, if they take a set now and then they need one for a later caution, they won't have it. So assuming there's nothing else that I'm missing, I think the right call is just to stay out for the time being.
All right, so play it safe, says Cy Andra. Let's see if the others feel the same. We've only had a couple drivers in pit lane since the start of this race. Traver, one of them, and Kulhanik. But let's take a look at Richter fighting for 12th. He's got Chatley just behind him. Remember, we were talking about him catching up to this group. Whoa! And people just diving and dodging across each other's bow.
Big chops here. I think it's causing some ire. I've been looking at the driver chat here, and I think a couple people aren't too happy. Maybe I think they're kind of just showing, hey, back off. This is my spot. Oh. And I don't think a lot of people are liking it.
What? Sorry, the 23 just had a swipe from the Shane in the 65 down the backstretch. Not sure exactly what caused this between them, but they did come together briefly. Let's watch it one more time. There it was right there.
Ooh. I guess the 23 just didn't want to arc down a little bit.
Exactly. And thankfully, everybody got away with it. Up at the front, Adam Shane now has that 9th position, and it's very slow down the backstretch for the 23. So Walter gets underneath him, and I think Adams knows that he's struggling. He gives it up.
And the gap between 3rd and 4th is getting bigger and bigger. It's up to almost 6/10 now. I think it's well out of the crap. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I don't think they're getting any sort of tow from that. Though, if he gets any closer, I'm sure that'll start to have an effect. Maybe it's at least keeping him with it. Brennan at least managing to feel a tiny bit of speed off of Sink. Nothing that seems to be allowing him to gain in big chunks. They're all going to continue to stay out here this time by. Halfway will be on lap 42 or 43, and they did have at least one caution to help them make it on fuel here.
Now, I don't know too much about these trucks, Joe. As you know, I'm mostly a downforce guy on the roadside, but I have cut my teeth on street stocks on the oval side back when I was a young rookie. But these trucks, how far do you think they can go on fuel?
Well, we've seen before that just a little bit less than halfway oftentimes will about do it. And that makes it tricky, especially if they go green for much of the race, trying to decipher when's the great place to come in. So again, if they keep going for just a couple more laps, it'll be a moot point because they should be able to pretty much get to the end from there. From there, I almost feel like it'll be a game of tires.
Looks like now we're on board with Walter. He's chasing the number 51 of Mike Richter here. And it looks like you can see him kind of get tight right as he runs in the tire tracks through the corner. I think the aero wash is starting to affect these trucks more and more as the tires wear out. Like you said, Joe, they were running 31s at the beginning of the race. Now they're down to the 33s.
Time just keeps dropping away and dropping away. And we have a taker, someone willing to take a risk. It is the 23 of Brett Adams. We saw him having problems a little bit earlier. So let's see what this does for him. He gets to be the guinea pig.
I'm expecting at least right sides here. And maybe 4 tires, but it looks like waiting for the left side to go up.
Yep, there it is.
Yep, 4 tires.
Yeah, I can't imagine the 2-tire call would work out terribly well here today. But he is out and on his way. He is indeed a lap down. The leaders are now on the backstretch with, wow, it's 0.8 of a second between Acosta and Hawley. My goodness. Abner's starting to really just stretch away with that lead. He's not going to elect to come in this time by. Wow, and you saw Thomas Sink in the background in the 48. His truck was really drifting. I think he's starting to feel the effects of this desert heat.
And just like we talked about in the pre-race there, Joe, I think Abner getting to the front early was the key. He didn't have to battle anybody too much to get there, and all the battling happened behind him. He was able to stay in control. And now he's reaping the benefits. His tires aren't as worn. He hasn't had to go side by side, so he can stay out longer.
Some of our back markers are trying to take advantage of their freedom and strategy. Stacy Hunter, Adam Young, I see Ryan Traver in. So there's getting to be more and more that are trying to split it halfway. Adam Zemke comes in. Now Zemke was pretty far up the deal along with the 23. And where is Brett Adams right now? Adams just going by. He's getting his lap back from Zemke. That'll be a great marker to see how Adam in that 57 returns and if he'll be ahead or behind Brett.
Well, Brett's last lap was just a 31.6. He was 2 seconds a lap faster than our leader, Abner Acosta. So I think he's definitely going to get the jump on the 57, I think. It's just going to be a question of how much faster the 57 is going to be and if he can get that time back.
There he is coming out of turn 4 right now. We saw Zemke exit out of his pit stall, and he starts to wind the car up. I don't think he's going to get out ahead of Adams, though, because a full head of steam for the 23. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. He's getting going, and he's on the backstretch. So, yes, Zemke will be ahead of Brett. Many more drivers now coming on in, though.
And it looks like everybody's taking 4 tires, 14-second stops for everybody.
Leaders are still staying out. Dominic Begin in. He was in 4th before we saw that, so there's he coming out. He's returning in about 16th.
And we are now past the halfway point, Joe, so they are good on fuel debate from here.
Now Patrick Cowgill taking service. Our other leaders still holding out. Wonder if they're looking for caution to maybe trap a bunch of cars a lap down. There goes Cowgill. Back onto the track. Adam Shane takes his pit stop. Highest driver to have pitted currently is the 89 of Matthew Kulhanek. Started from 25th. I think he was one of those guys that he actually just almost saw a wreck right now. If we go to a replay of the 89, him, William Lee, and Nick Schwartz had a real hairy moment. Let's see. They're going to get 3 wide coming off of turn 4. And kind of a miracle that none of them wound up losing it.
And this is the danger that you see when you have people with different age tires on the track. Just the ridiculous amount of speed you have with new tires sort of catches people off guard. It doesn't really. It's not like on road racing where you get a blue flag and over you're just expected to know. And look at that! Look at that! just door banging, but they all kept it clean.
That was Schwartz in the teal truck that got completely sideways, and our leader just came in. Abner Acosta on the lane. Regan stays out. Colton Lane does as well, as does Walter. And does Marinero come in? Yeah, so only 3 more trucks, taking it all the way to lap 48. Oh, and a caution comes just now.
Oh, this is bad news for Regan.
I'm trying to figure out who caused this. Was this Cervantes, maybe? No, not Cervantes. Boy, I'm baffled. I'm trying to figure out who might have triggered that yellow flag. Oh, it was Brandon Walter in the 99. Looks like Mark Kalin gonna unfortunately under anticipate the advantage that these fresh tires have given him. It's almost like multi-class racing.
Now, oh, just look, that's tough. But ultimately, it is the following car's responsibility to pass, and I don't think he did anything wrong there.
No, not at all. Yeah, Kalen's not going to catch the good side of the stewards from that one, I'm pretty certain. They do have stewards that will assess penalties post-race. So Mark might be having a meeting that he's not going to enjoy when all is said and done. Now, we had 12 cars on the lead lap when that caution fell, and only 3 drivers who needed to pit still. And that was Lane, Regan, and Walter.
Yeah, and this sort of throws the race for Regan, Colton, and Walter, unfortunately, because now they're going to be stuck behind everybody, and because everybody pitted within the last 5-6 laps or so, they're not going to come in for tires.
Interestingly, in all that, because Acosta waited so long, he had lost a number of positions. He was about 5th in line of all those who had already gotten their stops done, but he was on the lead lap critically.
Yeah, the caution came out right as he pulled into pit lane. So it was timed perfectly for Abner. I think everything's lining up here for him. And now he has the freshest tires on track.
That's a good point. So sometimes Lady Luck smiles on you. And as my dad always used to say, I'd rather be lucky than good. So Acosta, interestingly, directly behind Bradley Hawley, though. So those two will continue to fight.
And it's interesting because Bradley came in before Acosta and jumped him by about 3 seconds, I think, by the time Acosta pitted. Rather, he gained 3 seconds on Acosta in the pit gap before he pitted there.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, too. Yeah, it's based on what we've been seeing from the tires. Track has still been hovering at about 101 Fahrenheit. It got down to 100 at one point, but the trucks really barreling around here have kept the average temperatures up that you can see. Even 82 Fahrenheit air temperature currently as well. Now, because we had drivers stay out, did they get their laps back? Trying to see. Yeah, okay, they should be able to get their laps back, it appears. So we're going to have a bunch of trucks that will cycle back around once the lights go off on the pace truck. Chatley will be at the front of them in the number 59. He currently sits in 14th place. Well, this broke things up in an interesting way, because now we have drivers that are trying to get these laps back that are on tires with a few more laps on them. Not a whole lot, but I'm sure they'll feel the effects to a certain degree. And then you have a bunch of drivers up at the front with fresher tires, who are mostly those who have been battling up towards the top spots. And if we get another green flag run all the way to the finish, that's going to make it a real tire management game, I imagine.
Absolutely. Abner has the freshest tires, as we said, and he's starting in 4th. I mean, you don't really want to start at the outside here at Las Vegas. You end up getting freight train down the inside if you can't get there. But I think with his fresh tires, I think he might make the outside work against the people who've been out longer. And I don't think the race is done for Regan. Regan's back up into 7th on my screen, so he still has a shot at this. It's basically on the same tires as Acosta.
And he was able to just, take a stop here under caution, so he'll be fine there. As far as our battle for third in the championship goes, Dominic Bajin, who came in third, is actually currently in second on track. So he holds the advantage over all of the others right now. Where is Brennan Chatley? I just mentioned, yeah, he's in 14th trying to get his lap back, which just happened. And then Brandon Walter, who was just involved in that incident, hopefully not too damaged. He sits in 9th. So neither of them are out of it. They're both on the lead lap. Daniel Knight, on the other hand, I don't think Dan is here today. No, he is not. So it is between those three, Bajin, Chatley, and Walter, to try and sort out who gets the third step on the podium in the points. So we already doubled up here aside, getting ready to go on only our second restarts.
And let's see what happens when Dominic is on the outside this time. We saw second place kind of chopped down pretty quickly on the last restart, but I don't know if Holly is going to be so keen as to let that happen.
Certainly not, and he knows how to play this game as long as he can keep his eyes on the 48. It's always so hard for the driver on the outside of the front row to keep a watch on the front runner, on the pole sitter, when they're going to go and keep them from leaving you in the dust. Here comes the pace truck, and it's in. Sink has control. He's giving it a little bit of a wait. Now he goes. Green flag is out, and they drop Bajin. He is falling back. In fact, he might go all the way to 4th because it looks to his inside that Abner Acosta was paying attention, and he's going to be able to get it. Yep, he slips into P3.
It makes you wonder how many of these guys have formed alliances impromptu out here on the track. You think there was a little bit of a countdown going on there for the first and third place cars?
Could have been. The teams definitely do work together and often speak on the radio, as Bradley Hawley has figured out how to keep the speed on these restarts. Thomas Sink really has no answer. He does have slightly older tires compared to Bradley by about 3 laps. Is that enough to make this big of a difference? It certainly looks like it, because here comes Abner Acosta as well.
Look at that, they're hugging the bottom of the track again, and so that shows kind of how fresh those tires are, and that's going to change pretty quickly as these laps tick down. Looks like Sink is bumping Hawley there on the entry of 3, but Abner is still able to get the inside pass.
Both of them are clear. Are they going to be able to leave Sink behind easily, or is he going to try and cling to that slipstream as they start lap 54, 55 now? And they've also got Bajin still clinging to the tail of that trio. From there, it's a gap back to 5th, which has Brett Adams fighting with Kulhanek, along with Richard Regan Jr. for the 4th position. There you see them on screen now, and that is Kulhanek in the 89, who drops down low, falls into 7th.
They've all single filed out up here at the front, except for a couple. Oh, and we might be going side by side here again. Looks like that bottom line is still working for the time being. That 57 of Adam Zemke is still making it work.
Now, Zemke actually had things work out quite well because he got back onto the lead lap. He's taken 2 stops. He came back in again during the caution because he was on the lead lap. Now, he is down on tires compared to those around him. Based on the green flag racing we saw, I don't think that's too much of a concern right now for the 5017.
Well, he has to hope that there aren't 2 more cautions because at the rate this is going, it's probably going to go to the end. But because he only has 1 set left, if he does get on a new set and they go to the end from there, he might be in trouble.
That's a good point. It all kind of weigh on whether or not we get some more yellows. Meanwhile, up at the very front of the field, Bajin is gaining, and so is Abner Acosta, looking underneath Bradley Hawley and trying to take the lead away. The 184 has really got some competition as he sends it down into turns 1 and 2. He's side by side, wheel to wheel, and as they come off the corner, momentum favors Bradley Hawley up on the high side with those fresh tires on. Will the low side offer anything to the number 5? He starts to get a nose ahead, this time by down the front stretch. He is absolutely going to lead this lap.
Looks like Haley isn't giving up. He still has the momentum on the outside with that progressive banking. And I think Thomas is just happy to sit back here and let them battle, burn their tires off.
Starts to fall back again. Speaking of the tires burning off, maybe Acosta stayed on the low side a little too long. Nope, not enough for his liking. He's going to try it one more time, see if he can make anything stick. The 184 up in the middle lane. Not going to pinch him too hard. He gives him plenty of space, but he's also going to lead this lap as the 184 still holding the upper hand.
But this little battle has brought Regan, Zemke, and Brett back into the fight here. They are forming a pack, and they're only a couple tenths behind them. It's all single file at the moment, but it looks like Zemke is looking. Zemke goes down to the inside.
Indeed. So Zemke with a nice bit of steam, going to get into 5th place, notching down Dominic Pagine into 6th, and the top 2 have not given up on this fight. There you see him still almost dead even as they swing it around turns 1 and 2. Once again, Bradley Holly was drifting up. Acosta nearly got into his rival, had to catch the car. He's slow off the corner, and Sink sees it. He's going to take advantage.
That was a great drive from Abner. I thought for sure Bradley was about to be sent around. Even though he clinches the championship, that's not the way you want to take the trophy. Abner definitely didn't want to win that way either, so he backed out of it really well there.
I have to imagine at this point that Acosta's probably aware of the fact that the championship is done, knowing that how many cars he had to have Bradley finish behind there was very slim, but still Acosta fends off Thomas Sink. Interesting to see this. At the start of the race, we saw plenty of passes. Almost looks like it's gotten more difficult since then, Si.
Well, you know, the track rubber's in, and I guess if the rubber favors one lane, everyone's going to gravitate to that one lane. It makes you think, though, like if the bottom lane rubber's up and everybody moves to the second lane, it might be possible late in the race on fresh tires to use that rubber at bottom lane to get it on. It's going to be a long shot, and that needs another caution. That's the big question mark, isn't it?
Absolutely. Never really can count on it. And as they come around 3 and 4, Sink now drops back. That attempt seems to have hampered him as well. Almost looks like maybe you need to let the tires cool down a little bit or something. Have to go for an attack as you become vulnerable to the cars behind. Richard Regan Jr. now gets underneath. Can he finally make a successful overtake? The 48 holds to the outside, and Regan doesn't chop in front of him. He has to give him space with the momentum. Still working for the car of Thomas Sink, but now he is finally dropping fully behind. So Richard Regan gets into the podium positions, and Zemke actually might be able to get into 4th.
It looks like Sink may have used the last bit of the freshness of his tires there. He has the oldest tires of anybody in the lead pack here. He's getting on 21 laps on these tires. A couple of those laps were under caution, but he is getting on 3, 4, maybe even 5 laps older than some of the cars that he's right ahead of. Colton Lane and I would say Brett Adams are the next ones to look to get past that 48.
Now, but it's about to get ever more complicated. Doug Evans and the 41 is about to go a lap down. I don't think we have other trucks close in front of him. Yeah, it's a long ways up to the next one. So they're not going to see a lot of lap traffic here, but any lap traffic tends to be a problem. Nope, not for Doug Evans. He immediately ducks down onto the apron. So that was good, polite racing from Doug.
No Kevin LePage moments here today.
Thankfully not. Around 3 and 4 one more time. Holly with the upper hand. Abner Acosta at this point just wanting to finally beat Bradley and take a victory over him to at least get one this season. Not just claim to get a second place in the points, but have a W in his wins column. They head off onto the backstretch one more time, as behind them is where the close action starts to erupt. It's Walter up in 8th, but just barely on his low side. The 23 of Brett Adams trying to challenge.
It looks kind of like a copy-paste of what Bradley and Abner were doing earlier this run, but it looks like Walter is able to clear. Oh, it looks like Brett just got on the wall there.
Yeah, he definitely had a little bit of a bobble, and I think he brushed it. So he stays up to the high side. Fowler now below him in the 05, but Fowler can't keep the speed up coming off of turn 2. In fact, he looks very slow down to the bottom. Pinched down, he is uncomfortable. Mark Kalin coming back and trying to overtake him. He's going to try and do it the long way around, in fact. Patrick Cowgill as well. Finally getting the speed back up. Ed Fowler comes back into it, but he holds a very low line, a very high line for Mark Kalin, and he opens the door for a savvy number 31 truck, Cowgill, into 11th.
Well, the high line works, but not quite that high. Certainly the progressive banking doesn't quite fit running up that high, unless you're in a really high-powered car, I suppose. But these trucks, they have enough downforce that you kind of want to hug the inside of the track.
Certainly from what we've seen, that middle lane is about as high as many of them want to go realistically. At our leaders, is Acosta waiting, or is this his maximum pace? Could he be saving his stuff behind Hawley, hoping that he can give a charge towards the end? Or is he just giving it his all? 5 closes a little bit down into turn 3. We are to 15 laps to go, this time by at the line.
Well, Regan behind them is catching slightly. It's not by much, but he does have slightly newer tires in the both of them. It's only by a couple laps, or 1 lap actually, exactly. But he hasn't been racing as hard as the 2 leaders. It makes you think, like, if he can get up there, maybe he can shoot right by them.
Zemke has certainly not been slow. Started this race from 6th, he's up to 4th. Continuing to ride behind Richard Regan. Watch from his roof. He'll take that apron line we saw earlier, all the way down to the bottom, avoiding the grass, and then back onto the banking as it once again tilts into the corner. All 4 of them staying equidistant apart before you get a break between themselves and Thomas Sink, who rides in P5.
Is it just me, or do I see a little bit of right rear damage on Regan's truck there?
I think you're right. That does appear to be a little bit of a crinkle. Doesn't seem like it's affecting him, though.
Well, maybe when he pops out of the trap, that extra drag he's getting from that rim will start to affect him. Maybe he'll make him easier perhaps once he's out in front. And look at that. Everybody's jumped up to the second line now in 1 and 2. Nobody's taking the low line. Even with the dirty air, nobody's taking that lower line. So I think the tires have gotten to the point where they're going to struggle to run too wide, and they really got to rely on the draft to keep everybody together.
And it's definitely not a case of anybody being able to pit at this point with so few laps left. You really can't take advantage of those. You're almost going to have to hope for a caution, or that you can find some pace over those ahead. Battle starting to erupt between Regan and Zemke. Regan had to go slightly defensive for a moment.
Yeah, Regan was starting to head Zemke towards the wall. They're kind of telling him, don't pass now, otherwise we're going to lose him. But I think Zemke's starting to get restless here.
Kind of looks like that. We hop on board with the 57. Let's see if he can get a better run down the front stretch. That's where we saw Regan defend last time. Yeah, look at him just kind of hover down towards the inside a little bit, but Zemke is going to manage to get overlap. Can he hold it into the corner? Yes, he can. He's going to get a little bit of a nose ahead before, unfortunately for him, Regan has better momentum, and he'll get back into 3rd. It was a valiant effort, but the 57 is going to have to do something a little different.
Well, like I said, he does have the newest tires of everybody. It looks like he may have just burnt off the last bit of rubber he had on there. I don't know if he's going to have to just stick behind Regan at this point, hope for a caution. But here he goes on the inside once again. Let's see if he makes this work.
We're down to 10 laps to go now. Oh, and he gets into him. Can he hold it? He holds it. Regan, what a save from the 46. Let's take a look at this one more time. Not sure he'll be terribly happy about it, but he caught it, so he didn't wreck him.
Well, I wonder if the stewards are going to look at that as a bump and run or not. It was a little bit of a tap. But Regan, that was amazing. Look at that. Look at how quick his hands are on the wheel there. That is some good driving.
I mean, it was side-to-side contact, so it's harder to really give someone a penalty whenever you are wheel-to-wheel like that. We'll see what they think post-race. In the meantime, that has split them up a lot more significantly. Zemke is 8/10 behind Acosta and Hawley. But, Cy, put yourself in the shoes of Acosta now. You're on a very similar pit strategy to Hawley. You've got less than 10 laps to go. What recourse do you have to try and take this away from the 184?
I start praying for lap traffic. That's what I start doing, Joe. as bad as that might sound, I think getting Hawley in some dirty air would sort of give Acosta some more opportunities that he otherwise wouldn't get. Because look, he's in the draft right now, but as soon as they turn to the corner, he gets dirty air. He has to lift out of it a little bit. Look, Hawley starts pulling away there. So it's a stalemate right now. And unless you can get some external factors in there, it's going to stay that way until the end of the race. And obviously, Acosta doesn't want that.
That was Doug Evans on the low side that we saw getting lapped. They now have Ryan Traver up next, but don't think they've got enough laps that they can catch him. So if he is praying for lap traffic, it's not looking likely for the time being. This has got to be frustrating and disappointing for Abner Acosta if he winds up winless this season and finishing second in the points. Still, he racked up those podiums and those top fives all season long. We're down to 6 to go, and Acosta hovering at 1/10 of a second behind. He closes in a little bit under, breaking down into 1 and 2 this time.
It looks like he's lifting a little bit less than Hawley, but he's burning off the right front doing that. The more he does that, the harder the right front gets, and he won't have anything left for Hawley at the end of the race if he gets side by side. I think he's biding his time a little bit here, but I think at the same time he wants to get up there and fight for the win.
Well, we're going to hit 5 to go now. I mean, he is pushing hard. Some drift up close to the wall. I guess it's also a question of, well, how much more does he need to save? Because he really won't need them for much longer.
I think he's safe from Zemke and Regan behind him. They're about a second and change behind him. It's going to be tough. It's not necessarily that Abner can't do something. It's more that if he can get close. But I think if he burns off his tires getting there, I think he'll rob him of any opportunity if Hawley makes a mistake. But from what you've told me, Hawley isn't the kind of guy to make mistakes like that.
Not often. We so rarely see this man have a bad day. That's why he's racked up so many championships. Now it's starting to look like it is indeed burning off the rubber of the number 5. He's the farthest back we've seen in a number of laps, with only 4 to go, unless he finds himself with some sudden pace. He is just stuck where he is. Brett Adams moved up into 10th, just past Ed Fowler. Nice move from the 23 to get himself a nice little stat booster by the end of this one. As for our battle for 3rd in the points, I believe Bajin is still our highest finisher of them, so not challenged by Walter or Chatley at the time. That will not change positions, at least for 3rd in the points. As we take a look at Richard Regan and Thomas Sink, trying to decide who finishes just off the podium in 4th place. Sink chasing the 46, but so far looks about the same distance apart as what we saw with Hawley and Acosta, because they are now at 1.5 laps to go. Bradley Hawley on 4 wins. Unusually low, honestly, for the 184 in terms of seasons and how many wins he tends to rack up. But he's looking at taking the halfway mark with 5 wins if he can just take 1 more lap around. Now doing some alternate lines, desperate for anything to work. Abner Acosta trying the apron, and through 1 and 2, it's not going to get him any closer. Hawley just has to be smooth out of 3 and 4. We watch from his bumper, looking at the number 5. Around the last few corners, the 184 is going to claim another championship and another victory in his long list of them. Victory at Las Vegas for Bradley Hawley. It's going to go 2nd to Acosta, 3rd for Zemke. Regan just beat out Thomas Sink for that 4th position. And as the rest of them come to line, good battle between Kulhanek and Young. And it looks like Kulhanek is going to be able to take 18th over Young. Everybody else trickles across the line with 28 cars on the lead lap. This was a clean one. We are going to take a quick break, though. We're going to come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. After 10 rounds, it's another championship for Bradley Hawley in the NASCAR Truck Series, but also another victory. He took half of the wins here in this season. Abner Acosta didn't get a single one. Greedy of Hawley, but everybody wants to win. Adam Zemke wound up in third with Richard Regan in fourth. You've got Thomas Sink taking a P5 today ahead of Dominic Pagine, who finished sixth, sealing his third in the championship. Patrick Cowgill was seventh and Colton Lane P8. Then it was Brandon Walter in ninth and Brett Adams rounding out your top 10.
In 11th is Ed Fowler. At 12th is Terry R. Marinero. And we have Brennan Chatley in 13th, Mike Richter in 14th, Adam Shane, sorry Adam from earlier, in 15th, Jim Westerfeld in 16th, John LaBeouf in 17th, Matthew Kulhanek in 18th, Adam J. Young in 19th, and Denny Cervantes, our early leader, in 20th.
Yeah, a disappointing day for the USPS truck as the 43 of Brandon Adams took home 21st. Ryan Traver was 22nd. Last one on the lead lap, Mark Kalin, who had a bit of an incident earlier in the race, was 23rd. A lap down, Doyle Lawrence as well, 24th. Jose Medina, 25th, and Nick Schwartz, 26th. Then you got Nick Hunter in 27th and Stacy Hunter in 28th. Last car one lap down was William Lee. Everyone beyond that was a DNF today. Evans, Austin Hunter, Shelby Huff, and William Farmer. Looks like we have our winner ready to talk to us, Bradley Hawley. Another championship, Brad, and another victory. It looked very tough to pass out there. Once you got in the lead towards the end, did you feel pretty confident that Abner wouldn't really be able to challenge you?
Yeah, I did. I mean, we pretty much were on the same lap on tires because I didn't even get a full. I think I got on the backstretch when the caution came out. And with the dirty air and everything, it made it really tough to get within 2/10 of somebody after a few laps.
the way that you had that long green flag run in the first half of the race, did you kind of maybe try and manage yourself on the restart in the middle of the race then, just in case you went green like you did all the way to the finish?
Yeah, I tried. It was just the truck felt so much different behind somebody versus when you were out front. I got so tight towards the end of that first run that there was just nothing I could do. So I was kind of hoping the undercut would work and I could keep him behind me.
Brad, these championships just seem almost unending sometimes with the number of ones that you've claimed here in the trucks. So coming to next season, Abner didn't exactly beat you much. In fact, he didn't take any victories this season, but it looks like he's giving you a run for your money in terms of consistency. Does that give you concern for next season?
Oh, absolutely. With the way the PRL is going right now, we keep getting, tougher and tougher guys to race against. And, it's just, I got to try to step up my game and try to stay out front.
Well, congratulations, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again some more next season. Enjoy another trophy on your mantle, sir.
Thank you very much.
That was the 184 Bradley Hawley, our winner and newly crowned champion. Up next, Cy Andra has the man who finished second in both cases, Abner Acosta.
Welcome to the booth, Abner. Unfortunate you couldn't get the win here, but you looked like you had it tied up, but then the caution came out. Tell us about what was going through your mind then.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Yeah, I was pretty upset about the yellow because I figured I had a good lead. I waited till the end to pit, so I was going to have fresher tires. But, it happens. The yellow happened, lost the lead, and it's very hard to pass here. Like, you could probably pass in the first couple of laps, really, on the restart. But after that, unless somebody makes a mistake, it's just very tough to pass. And I just couldn't get by Bradley at the end.
We saw that on the second restart there. You were side by side with Bradley for what seemed like 3 or 4 laps. And it looked like you were dead even most of the time coming to the line, and you actually came across the line in the lead a couple of times. Is it just the track evolves throughout the race? You can't run the bottom anymore? What happens?
Yeah, just you can't really run the bottom anymore. You really can't make a pass unless somebody makes a mistake. So I don't know if I made a mistake by going for that pass too early, because definitely after that, after the 4 or 5 laps, I felt like my truck was really tight after that. So I tried to save and try to get close, but there's just I just couldn't get back up there.
We were remarking in the booth whether that burned off you and Haley's tires, and we were wondering if Zenke or Regan would get close enough to give you guys a run for your money. Well, unfortunate you couldn't get the win there, Abner, but extreme consistency for you gets you second in the championship even without any wins. What's your prospects looking like for next season?
I definitely have to, if I want to. Consistency needs to be there, but Bradley's just winning more races right now, so yeah, if I want to win, I have to beat him. So hopefully I can take some victories next season and be a little closer or beat him.
Of course. Thanks, Abner. Is there anybody you want to thank before you head out?
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for broadcasting at GSRC, PRL for hosting the league, and the viewers for watching, and Wadaback Racing. Thank you.
That was Abner Acosta, second in this race and second in the championship.
And I believe up next we've got Thomas Sink, who managed to grab a top 5 here today. Thomas, it looked like the trucks would get to be quite a bit of a handful towards the end of those runs.
Yeah, the tire fall off was pretty decent. The truck was actually pretty balanced. It was more of an aero issue. It seemed like if you get within like 2/10 of someone, the truck just got too tight and you weren't able to turn. You weren't allowed to do anything. It almost felt more comfortable to sit back a little bit and just follow.
Can understand that, but this top 5, I believe, will help seal the 3rd place in the team's championship. Do you pay much attention to that, and is that a source of pride for you?
Yeah, it's a source of pride. Yeah, I take pride that the Whataback teams do really well. But no, I haven't really been paying attention much this season. I just haven't had a very good season. It's better just not to look.
Well, I imagine then that next season will be a fresh slate and a chance to maybe try and get things switched back in the right direction. Are you looking forward to season 2? Do you plan to continue competing here in the trucks?
Absolutely. The objective is to get Whataback into the top 3 of the team spots and get a Whataback driver in the championship, and ideally every Whataback driver into the playoffs.
It certainly looks like between Abner and Brad, it's certainly going to be a tough task trying to take down the multi-time champion. Again, congratulations on a top 5, and can't wait to see you next season.
Same with you guys.
That was Thomas Sink, who finished 5th today. And then a little bit farther down in 7th, it was Patrick Cowgill, part of the 2nd place finishing team in the team's championship. Cy has caught up with Patrick.
Hey, Patrick, welcome to the booth. You started 11th, finished 7th. Tell us about how your race went.
Well, at first I was just trying to sit back and save my tires. And then after pit stops, I came out and I happened to be the unlucky lucky dog, because if I had passed Richard, I think I probably would have had a possibility to fight Brad and Abner for the win, because that last run, my truck was wicked fast.
Yeah, that was a lot of talk about. We were talking a lot about that in the booth, especially with the right front tire wear and the aero push and all that, how that affects what line you run. You didn't seem to have too much trouble coming through the field on that second run there. How was the battling there with Westerfield, Lawrence, and Kalen?
Definitely tough. The whole time I was thinking in my head, remembering what Thomas told me during practice, because he's been trying to help me get faster and whatnot, and he was giving me what line to run and that kind of stuff, and it worked. It was perfect.
A good mentor always helps, and it definitely helped you in that second run. Got past a lot of good drivers like Lane, Walter, and Brett. Well, what do you think for next season? You got second in the team championships here. What's your goal for next season?
Probably get a top 10 in the points.
An ambitious goal as always. Well, thanks for the great season, Patrick. Anybody you want to thank before you head on out?
I'd like to thank you guys for doing the broadcast, PRL for putting on the league. I'd like to thank the Whataback guys. Practice with them all the time. I run with them in the Cup Series too. And I'd like to thank my sponsor, CTN NB1 Syndrome Awareness Worldwide. My daughter was diagnosed with it, and so I'm trying to raise awareness for it by running it on my truck.
That's a great cause. Thank you, Patrick. That was our 7th place finisher, Patrick Cowgill.
That will wrap up our interviews as well as our season, but not the broadcast quite yet, because we want to thank a few people. Most specifically, we want to thank Simulation Motorsports Affinity. And if you want to get involved with the world of sim racing, all you have to do is go to their website, which is SIMMSA.net. And also NinjaTrader, and their website is very easily found at NinjaTrader.com. And finally, for all of your sim rig needs, Butt Kicker products will certainly help your immersion. You can find them at thebuttkicker.com. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Cy, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head on over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. We will be back for next season, Wednesday, March 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern for the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.